Thank you, Mr. Noga. It's always said that the future always seems far from us, and the past always seems like yesterday to us. And so sometimes what is very far off from us, like future things, we assume that we can, as it may, postpone whatever that we have to do, and then when it's getting by, we prepare for it. If nothing at all, I think what has happened to some of the elderly people that we know, the popular actors and so, has shown us that retirement is quite a big deal. And we do not want to find ourselves in a situation whereby we will be begging for alms, and then we will be dependent on other people for our future food, and then whatever, clothes and shelter. With that, I think that the Stewardship Department has organized this program for all of us, that if for nothing at all, we would educate ourselves and then put proper plans in place for whatever that will happen in our future, so that our future and our retirement can become the best ones and then the best of things that we can also dream of. To do that today, we have two of our own and then one expert joining us. I think on my left is Elder Samuel Apieje, who is an elder of this church and is a retiree and will be sharing his experience with us. And then sitting close to him is Miss Mary Afriyie-Tete, Mrs. Mary Afriyie-Tete, who is also a retiree and then would also be sharing her experience with us as well. And on my extreme left is Mr. Daniel Tay-Mensah. He is also an expert, today's expert. He's a man from Alliance Pension Alliance Trust, and then he is the head of business development and marketing space. He actually completed Valley View, and then also has a master's from University of Ghana, 2 masters, and also has an LLB. So I think he's well versed in whatever that he will show us, so that living here, we would know how we can plan, and then what we to do, and then what we do not have to do to secure our future. So without much ado, I think we will delve into the discussion, and then I'll start with my panel here. Today's session is going to be in 2 folds. First of all, we are going to talk to our mother and then Mr. Samuel Apieje, for them to give us a perspective of how it feels to go to be a pensioner and how they felt going into pensions and all that. And then Mr. Daniel Tay-Mensah would also take us through, from an expert perspective, things that we ought to do and then things that we should not be doing. So moving on quickly. Elder, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'd like to find out from you, can you just tell us a little about yourself, where you worked, and then how long it's been since you retired?
Okay. Just as you mentioned, my name is Samuel Apieje. I was born 16th July 1955. So I am more than 66 years. I'm getting to 67 years.
You look younger.
Yes. I don't want to go into details of my educational, but I started work with Electricity Company of Ghana, and that was where I went on retirement. In fact, I had challenges when after I've completed school and I was not getting work to do. I started, just as I said, with Electricity Company of Ghana at Nkoko. I started as a clerical officer, and I ended up as an accounts manager at the same electricity company. I worked for 36 years in the same company, from the scratch up to the time. When I started work at the age of about 24, I thought retirement was too far away from me. So I took things easy. But before I could say Jack, I was nearing my retirement. But even before I went on retirement, there were certain things that I decided that I need before I go on retirement. The first one was that I don't want to go on retirement and then go and rent a house or a place. I want to have my own house and live in after my retirement. So I started working on it. And incidentally, by God's grace, I have been able to put up a house where I am living.
Amen.
So that is this. And at the same time, too, whilst I worked, I knew that it is God that can take you through. There were certain things that, in fact, each and every one of us, we are different. But I decided that I'm going to work honestly. What I said to myself was that I want to rely exclusively on the money that I'm paid without getting things from outside. In fact, that was my aim. So throughout the time that I worked, I tried as much as possible to work and then use the money that I'm paid to fend for myself and fend for my family. And by God's grace, He was able to take me through all these things until I finally went on retirement. And I want to thank God that He has taken me through, because some of the people that I started working with, some even died on the way. Some were dismissed from work and so on. But God took me through all these things, and then here am I, having retired for the past 6 years. And I believe that retirement is something that nobody should fear, based on my own personal experience. Nobody should fear. It is good to go on retirement. You go and rest. But I told myself that as I go on retirement, I'm not going to worry myself too much working to get money. I want to, anything that I'm doing, I should treat it as something like a hobby. I don't want to engage myself in strenuous work as I did, putting stress on me. And one other thing too that I said I wanted to achieve was that my health was so important to me. So I decided to cut down certain things. And incidentally, even now, as I'm sitting here, I'm a vegetarian. I wasn't a vegetarian from the beginning. But as I progressed, I thought that there are certain things that I need to do. So even at workplace, when it was, you could go to a restaurant, when there is a meeting, I go there, and then I sit down and watch them eating. I wouldn't take part in the food that they are eating, because I wanted to preserve my health. And through the grace of God, I'm healthy, I'm strong. Anywhere that I want to go, I'm able to go. And I think it is the grace of God that has brought me this far.
Thank you very much, Elder. And what do you say to God? Amen. Okay, Mommy, from your side too, we would like to understand, as an entrepreneur, in the first place, do you even retire as an entrepreneur? Yes, please.
Yes. Yes. In fact, before you even plan on going on retirement, you should be thinking of all these things. The minute you get employed after your education, the minute you start, you must start thinking of going on retirement. because you will. If God gives you a long life, and even if you do not have a long life, you need to plan, because we all know that when we grow, if you're a woman, you want to marry and then have children, and then you care for your husband. So whatever the case may be, you need to plan. Yes.
So from your end as an entrepreneur, what are some of the things that you put in place before you retire to ensure that whatever business you are doing still keeps on running even in your absence? Because you have realized that sometimes because of mistrust and then the mere fact that you don't really have people to leave the organization to, people work themselves out till they go on their graves. So you want to understand, as an entrepreneur, what can you do so that when it gets to that point where you want to take leave of the business, you would have that confidence and that energy to leave?
Yeah, thank you. The thing is, for me, my background is business. It was business, because when I was young, my mom was a cloth seller, and she buys a cloth, brings it home, and as I was schooling, she would tell me how much she bought it and how much she wants to sell it. So I was helping her and putting prices on the cloth for her before she goes to various markets on market days. So even from that time, I was learning. And again, in school, I learned business. So I think as time goes on, you hear and then the little I've put down as to how one can set up a business even before retirement. It helps. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Elder, this will be quite personal, but we want to find out, on the day that you retired, the final day at work, when you woke up the next day and then you realized that you would not be going to work today or ever again, how was the feeling?
Well, to me, it was an exciting moment, because the work that I was doing, I can say it was, as it were, stressful. I have gone through a whole lot of things as far as the work is concerned. It may interest you to know that at some point in time, I was hauled to the BNI about certain issues that has happened, for which I took a certain stand. So people thought they have to, as it were, cow me so that I don't do certain things. I had also been to court as a witness for ECG, just because of the work that I did. People thought that, well, by going to court, ECG, generally ECG, when people take us to court, we don't go. And then, cause is awarded against ECG. Fortunately for me, when one of our contractors took us to court, I was contacted by the legal department. In fact, the issue had happened about 6 years before I went to court. But incidentally, when the documents were shown to me, as if it has happened some 10 minutes ago, because I knew vividly exactly what transpired, for which reason some payments. In fact, my boss had delegated certain things to me. Unless I append my signature to it, he would not sign. And because I didn't, people came left, right, center, I refused. So the next decision is that it has to go to court. Fortunately for me, when I went to court, ECG won the case, because the people didn't have any basis for sending us to court. And incidentally, I can say that God even aided me, because at the time that I was in the witness box and the lawyer of that contractor was narrating the story and everything, incidentally, it came to a time when the judge himself came to when I had not spoken, he came to my aid. So I think God has been with me. Had it not been God, perhaps I would not even have had a chance of retiring. So when I went on retirement, I was very pleased, because in the first place, even though I was in the government bungalow, the moment I retired, I went to my own house. So it wasn't something that, where am I going to stay? Where will I listen? I went there straight to my house, and that is all. So it was an exciting moment for me, because of the stress that I now don't have to go through, waking up early morning, planning, running through traffic to go. So to me, it was an exciting moment, and it still continues to be an exciting moment being on retirement, because now there's no pressure. I decide when to wake up. I decide when to go out. I'm not under any pressure from anybody whatsoever.
Okay, Elder, but the other school of thought which talks about post-retirement depression, which talks about boredom, which talks about loneliness. In that instance, how do you deal with that? And then also, how does the church in itself help you to cope with that? The church activities and everything, how does it help you to cope with that?
You see, each and every one of us is different. I'm somebody who takes things easy. I don't allow pressure to be brought on me. I want to do things at my own pace. Even if you are my boss, you can't put pressure on me, because, one, I know what I'm doing, and what I'm doing, I know it is right. So for me, as an individual, I don't think I had any problem as far as my retirement was concerned, with boredom or whatever. I wake up, I go for my normal routine walk. I come, I decide whether to go somewhere or not to go somewhere. And incidentally, the church work also occupied me, because I was at one point in time made a treasurer. And it involves a whole lot of things. Going and coming back to church, going to do banking and all those things. It kept me busy. So I've not been bored as far as my retirement is concerned.
Okay, thank you very much. Mommy, so to your end, we would like to know that as of now, what keeps you busy? Is there something you are doing? Is there a business you are still engaged in? Is there something that you are doing, yes, that still keeps you busy?
Thank you. And in my line of work, I started because I was already in business when I was young. I had my own company, and because I had my own company, and again, I was having babies, because I had my own company. I took my babies to where I work, so it was quite good for me, and I think that most women would wish that you can take care of your baby in your own time and in your own place of work, So for me, it was due to an accident. That's why I retired early. Otherwise, I wouldn't have retired. But even now that I'm retired, I have people who always call me to ask me how to go about making a lawyer's gown, because I was into that. I was making lawyer's gowns. I was making choir robes. I was making baby's dresses. I was, in fact, sewing everything. trouser suits, everything I was. But because I had the accident, I had a whiplash injury. The truck was this heavy truck, and it just hit my back. So I had a whiplash, you know. So even now, I have people who, when they are going to sew something, and because I trained others, I still have people who, when they're going to make something which is a bit difficult, they call me and I help. That's all that I
So
do.
in terms of financially, how did you plan towards your retirement? Is it that you were saving towards it? Is it that you had done a contribution with SNAIT as an entrepreneur? How were you planning towards your retirement?
Thank you. For me, savings was one of my prime things. It was something that I started doing very early when I started working. And in fact, I want to tell people that don't wait before you think you have enough money before you save. Even if you have your income gets you, let's say, just 100 cedis a month, you can cut your coat according to your cloth. In other words, you're spending. Most times for us women, when there is a fashion craze, then we want to go and buy something, even when we have the thing. The dresses, the shoes, the handbags, we want to buy it. But that's not the way forward. You have to have a culture of savings. You earn 100 cedis from your business. You know you will have to pay the landlord at the end of the year. So you need to put something down for that. Electricity, you need to put something down for that. And you need to put something down for a rainy day. Anything can happen. You can fall ill, sick. And you don't have to go and ask your husband for money once you're working. That is how I grew my business. So even when I had the accident, I had to close my business after 5 years. I had my own money.
Amen. And what do you say to that? So, Elder, from your end, how did you plan towards your retirement in terms of financially? Was it with SNITs only, or you had something that you were doing on the side to support? And then in general, were you happy with the contribution you received from SNIT or your Tier 2 pension or whichever pension fund that you received? Were you happy with it?
Yeah, for me, my main focus was first and foremost my health, educating my children. So that was my main focus. And I also knew that if I go on retirement, I had SNIT pension to take care of me. Well, for now, the money that I earn, as far as SNIT is concerned, I can say it is enough for me, because I have learned from the time that I was working to live within my means. I didn't want a situation where I would do an extravagant spending, whatever. And incidentally, I have to put on record, my wife and my children were very cooperative, because if it comes to spending, this is the money that we have to spend. We have to work, spend within. You can't go over and above it, because I'm not that person who, at the job, at the workplace, wants to get people gifts and so on and so forth. There have been instances where people brought me gifts and I rejected it. Instances that people brought gifts and I rejected it. I have to put on record that there is something that inspired me in doing that. I started secondary school in 1969 when Buzia, the late Professor Buzia, I'm sure most people around here, they even don't know Buzia. when he has come to power, or he was the prime minister. And I quite remember that he brought something which I thought if Ghanaians had bought to it, it would have been great for us. All around public places, they have written, do not accept gifts. They are bribe. We were going to school by train from Kumasi. I would take train, and we had a concession ticket. You pay half, and you go there. And around the train stations and all the public places, it was there. So it was one of the things that inspired me that, look, as I go and work, I'm not going to accept gift from anywhere, anybody. So when you come and you bring me something, I will just reject it. Even including people who brought food. When you bring food, that one I can't tell you to take away. I take it and then I give it to my, how do you call it? Those people that I'm working with. So generally, perhaps maybe when I come to your house and you offer me something and I don't eat, you may think that it has been my habit from time immemorial that I don't want to rely on anybody, food, especially food given by anybody. Those who have gone on funerals with me, if I'm going for funeral, I take my own food to the funeral. I don't want to take any, get things from anybody. I want to rely on whatever comes to me and I work within. That has been my style. And that is what is keeping me going.
Thank you, Elder. So lastly, Mommy, we want to understand, in your estimation, do you think that kids are a good source of security during retirement?
You mean savings?
Yes. No,
Yeah.
kids are a good sort of security. Kids, children are, yes, during retirement.
Okay, it's not part of a business though, but in a way, it's a business because children, it's the way you treat you train them. If a child will be, I'm using this word, profitable to you in your old age, in your retirement time, then it is because you started early with them, training them, letting them, if they are interested in your business, then you need to train them in your business. But if they want to school, then that one, you need to, as I said at the beginning, you need to concentrate on your savings to be able to have money when they come home. They need books, they need everything, whatever they will need to make them comfortable when they go to school. Because when they don't have the things that their friends have, and if they happen to be women, that is what brings about all these teenage pregnancies and all that, because they need those things, and since you haven't got the money to give to them, somebody will entice them. So at the end of the day, you will suffer in the long run, because if their education is, they don't go far in the higher education, it means they can't make it. Now, in fact, nowadays they can't make it. In the 60s and 50s, yes, when I was growing up, yeah, you can get, excuse me, using the word, crashing. You can get a crashing man to marry your daughter if she's pretty, but not now. All the beautiful girls are schooling. So I think savings is something that every parent should try and have that culture of savings. Even if you think that every month you can save just 50 cedis, I think it's okay. Because if 50 cedis stays in the bank for 3 years, it is no more 50 cedis. So I think that's one thing that we should learn, most especially the ladies.
Thank you very much. So at this point, we would like our expert, Mr. Daniel Terry-Mensah, to come in to also share from a technical perspective the do's and don'ts. Then we would come back to our mother and our father to also continue, and we can take contribution and questions from your end. So shall I welcome Ms. Elder with a big amen?
Good afternoon, one and all. I'm really humbled today to be before PESDAC and to be before my seniors and my lecturers. And it's very, very humbling. I have dubbed today's preparation or education preparing towards retirement from the new pensions law perspective. We have cogently listened to our senior citizens and the discipline to which they have lived and are now in retirement, and they are giving us some of the cardinal points to look at. One very important one that I took from them is savings. But as individuals, we know we are constrained. And the economists will say that you fashion out your spending from the Lagrange when you are limited, from the Lagrange theory. That means that you have a lot of things to buy, yet you are limited by the budget that is in your pocket or the money that you have. So you have to use the budget to plan for what you have. And in this respect, we are constrained as per where we stand now. You're an employee. You know vividly that you earn perhaps 5,000, 6,000 as your net income. So that's the constraint. So you have to work from the constraint to choose what you have to get to make your life meaningful. And the pension law provides a good platform for us to do or work towards our retirement in this respect. One might ask, what is this new pension law? I think my senior citizens will attest to me that when they were working, the only institutions they contributed to was SNIT. SNIT was the all in all. They were the regulators, they were the participants as well. And that law is known as the PNDC Law 247. That law ceased to be in January 1st, 2010. And in its place, there is a new pension law called the Act 766. The Act 766 has a new regulator who manages or regulates the pension space. And SNIT is a subservient to that institution. So now, what SNIT does is that SNIT just manages the Tier 1. The Tier 1 is the first part of your income that is paid on your behalf by your employer. Hitherto, it was 12.5%. Now, it's been upped by 0.5% to 13%. But as an employee, you are supposed to cap it up with 0.5%. But usually, our employers pay that on our behalf. So they pay 13.5% to SNIT. SNIT keeps 11%, and the second 2.5% to the National Health Insurance Fund. So that is why the National Health Insurance always says that if you are a contributor to SNIT, you are by default a contributor to the National Health Insurance Scheme. So all what you need is that you go in for your card, and you can access hospitals per that. But that is just details that I'm giving you in that respect. Then the new law says that the employee will contribute 5.5%. And that is what is kept in with a pension trustee till you get to retirement. One might ask, who is a pension trustee? A pension trustee is an institution which is accredited by the new pension regulator to undertake the duty of trusteeship. When we say trusteeship, it is an entity or an appointed individual to whom contributions are given to based on an agreed contract that he keeps those contributions for a given time for unappointed beneficiaries to benefit from on the due date. So perhaps I am a trustee. You contribute to me that I should invest it into a scheme to yield results such that on an appointed date, you will get to me so that on appointed day, you will get to me and harvest whatever you have kept in the scheme. So that is how trusteeship works. Trusteeship is quite different from insurance. And I know my senior insurance solo is here. Insurer solo is here. Insurance is that I hedge my risks to a firm such that when the risks crystallize, I'm paid, I'm covered. Like you have a vehicle. I drive the vehicle every day. And I insure the vehicle against somebody knocking it or it knocking somebody, such that on the day it does the risk does happen, I wouldn't know how whether my pocket will be full or not. So I have hedged that risk. If that risk crystallizes, then I call on my insurers to take up whatever mess I have caused or whatever mess has been caused, because the other car which might have hurt me will also be insured. But pensions, I say, put down monies such that on retirement, I give you all what you've set aside, including its interest. Hello? Hi. I believe with this explanation, I have differentiate what insurance is and what pensions is. So let me go through the slide. One of the things we would love to see is that everybody wants to retire wealthy. Though, despite that we are using this photograph, there are people who are very rich in retirement, but though they still look very simple. This is what we want our presentation to look like. We'll talk about ourselves and go through this outline. Our company is Pensions Alliance Trust. We were formed out of the new pension law in 2010. And we do these three core business. We are a trustee. We do pension administration. There's a slight difference between pension administration and pension trustee. And if it gets to the question and answering time, I will take the trouble to respond to that. And we do consultancy and advisory service. This is the cross-section of some of the top clients that we manage. So let me come to the new pension scheme governance. The MPRA is in the green space. The trustee is the yellow space. We have the trust board in yellow space. We have the trustee company. So Pensions Alliance is one of them. Then we work together with other service providers we call fund managers and custodian. Fund managers, what they do is that when you pay your tier 2 or tier 3, the money is paid into a custodian account. That's the bank. Then we as trustees tell the bank that so much has been paid into it. So get in and go and fetch products in the market that will yield the optimal interest rate for the scheme. So when they go, we authorize the transaction such that they can pick the money and go into the market and buy whatever asset. At the end of the day, we distribute documents that fund manager A went into the custodian account, took 100,000, bought this asset, and these are the proof of the purchase that he's done. So those are the things we do. Because in the pension, we see money, but we don't touch it. The fund manager also sees money, but he uses it for pure transaction purpose. The one who keeps the money is the custodian, but the custodian also cannot touch the money without the instruction from the trustee. So you would have heard recently that 9 banks went under, but no pension funds had any issue regarding whether pension money has been chopped, as we see in the Ghanaian parlance. So we say this is man's basic need. As our senior citizen said, when it breaks and kicking, you make sure that at least your food, your medical care, and clothing is taken care of whilst in working life. But on retirement, there is a red light that beeps at some of your basic needs. One of them is shelter and medical care. And the case is, how are you preparing towards that? So let me come down to the pension. I believe most of us work. Hello? I believe most of us work. And it is by the statute, the Act 766, Tier 2 is compulsory. It's part of the Tier 1. And the pension law says that you have up to 35% of your income, which is supposed to go into pension, or you can set aside for pension contribution to which tax will not apply. The laws of Ghana is such that any contribution taken out of your salary towards pension is not taxed. That is what the law says. So you can see that when it gets to that, I will try to explain that. But this is what the law says. It says for the Tier 3 is a voluntary contribution. Tier 1 and Tier 2 is 18.5%. So the law says you have up to 35%. So if you do Tier 1, Tier 2, you have 16.5. So this is where, if you want to go on retirement and retire peacefully, retire without any heartbeat about what is going to happen when I retire, this is where you begin to look at and build more reserves in terms of contribution, so that when you get to retirement, at least when the red light starts beeping on your shelter and they start beeping on your health care, at least you've created a reserve that will take care of you. And Madam was saying that she was in the informal sector. The law also provides that those in the informal sector who do not have an employer-employee relationship could come under the informal sector. So assuming Madam, when she started, this law had been in place, the law mandates that she can contribute to SNIT and still contribute some income to a trustee to build it up for her till she gets to retirement. So that is the informal sector. In the formal sector, Tier 1, Tier 2, 3, you have up to 16.5. The contributor enjoys a free tax. When I turn on the slides furthermore, I will do that explanation for you. It says, the law says that if you belong to a Tier 3 scheme, government says because of the long-term savings plan, you shouldn't touch your money. You should build it for the next 10 years, such that after 10 years, you can have your money. But if you so wish to harvest your money before 10 years, there is a withholding tax of 15% to be paid. I will, when it gets to that, I'll explain that. For some institutions, the Tier 3 contribution is co-contribution. You pay half, the employer pay half. In that regard, we set up rules governing the scheme such that maybe the employer will say it is a strategy to hold on some key staff. So the rules are such that when you sign on to the law or the employer starts paying for you, you can leave one employment to another. So when you are leaving, if you have not made the 3 years mark, your portion of the contribution, you can take it. But the employer portion to which he supplements your contribution, that will stay. So normally, it is an internal arrangement that is made between the employer and employee. But if you meet the minimum vesting period, maybe for 3 years, you are supposed to be in employment. And after that, if you want to go to another employment, then you can move on your money to the next employer. This is the provision of the law which says that up to 16.5%, the Act 766, if you read Section 89, it tells you where the provision, what the law says about. So let's move on to here. I'm trying to make a vivid analysis here. Assuming worker 1, we have worker 1 and worker 2. Worker 1 works and his basic salary is 2,000 cedis. The employer and employee pays 110 and 260 in respect of tier 1 and tier 2. So he's left with 16.5%. So in the worker with tier 3 column, he and the employer makes a contribution of 15%. That's 200 and 100 cedis towards his tier 3. So his payee, he takes his taxable income. When you take those charges from it, his taxable income becomes 1,690. You apply the tax incidence on it, and he pays a tax of 218 cedis. So he goes home with 1,472 cedis. Worker B pays, he gets 2,000. The mandatory tier 2 is paid. He doesn't pay tier 3. His taxable income is 1,890. And he goes home with 1,637 cedis. But let's look at what's happening here. Look at the chargeable income column. The worker A is paying a tax of 218. Worker B is paying a tax of 253. Joshua, could you kindly come and stand here and do something for me? When you compute the difference between the tax incidence, the tax that you're paying, worker A is paying 218 and worker B is paying 253. The difference is 35. So with this 35 cedis, assuming the worker is 30 years old, so he has 30 more years to work. So we have a software that we use. It's called Financial Calculator. If you go online, you can get it. So assuming worker A is paying a tax of 218 and worker B is paying a tax of 253. Let's check how much worker B is paying by way of of investment that he's paying out to government, because he's paying more tax than required. So we are going to assess that in an investment way to see how much he's paying, let's quote, wastefully. So key in 35 cedis has principal, because that is the excess of tax he's paying. So monthly, every month, he still pays 35 cedis because he's not contributing to tier 3. So key in 35 cedis as monthly. He's 30 years, so he has 30 more years to work for. So 30 times 12 is 360. So key in the number of months, 360. And key in the interest rate, this year, we're doing about 4.8 per quarter. So when you extrapolate it, we are doing 19.12, but we are using a conservative estimate of 19%. When you calculate it, how much do you get as the principal? The principal.
Hello. Okay, so the principal is 12,635 Ghana cedis.
That is principal that you've contributed freely as a way of tax to government. Look at the interest that has accrued on it if that money were to have been channeled into a pension scheme.
Okay, so the interest amount will be 533,247.92.
So what is the maturity figure?
So it will be 545,882.92.
So you've paid that money wastefully to government, which could be a big money should somebody get it now. So we are saying that the new pension law as it is now, we can still maneuver and take advantage of the pension law such that on retirement, we can go home much happier. The next thing we can see from this slide is that the worker was not contributing tier 3. In this regard, worker with tier 3, the worker was contributing 200 cedis per month. So Joshua, go into the calculator.
Okay.
The worker is 30 years, so he contributed 200 cedis every month.
200.
Monthly contribution 200.
200.
He is 30 years, so he has 30 more years to go on retirement.
Okay.
So that's 360 months. And
Rate is still the same?
19%.
Okay.
Use compound semi-annually. Compound semi-annually. Let me show you.
Yes, it is semi-annual.
Okay, calculate.
Okay, so the principal will be, the total principal will be 72,200 Ghana cedis.
And the interest accumulation.
The interest amount will be 3,047,000 Ghana cedis, 130.95.
And the on maturity, how much is he
It will
getting?
be 3,119,300.
Almost 3.2. That is what is. So if the employee is contributing this from his income and he's getting that, mind you, I said in the tier 3 it could be co-contribution. So on the other column, the employer was also paying 100 cedis. So when you put these two figures together, that is what the employee is getting home for his tier 3. Almost 4.8 million. Hello? I believe if any of us should go home with 4.8 million. And we are working this, not taking into cognizance the annual cost of living allowance that is added to our salaries. You know, every month, our incomes is adjusted by some 10 or more percentage. And if it comes, it works out into this mathematics. So we are saying that as we know that we are constrained by the incomes that we get, we can still make way out of our salaries such that we can make meaningful contributions towards retirement such that when you go on retirement, we can retire very handsomely. Now we have given some structure of age groups which advises how to hasten the fund building exercise such that on retirement, at least if you do not start early enough, on retirement you can still make some meaningful contribution towards retirement. So I will leave these slides, or I will share the slides because I think there will be a lot of questions and I don't want to make the whole presentation that lengthier. Then one might ask, how do you assess the tier 3 if you had met or if you are still contributing? One of the ways you can assess it is if you have made the minimum timeline, which is 10 years. But if you haven't made and you want to assess the fund, there is a penalty that you pay. And the penalty doesn't come to us. It goes to government, because whatever we do, we are monitored by GRA and the regulator. So every quarter, they come to us to make sure that at least our books in respect of people who have come for tier 3 is in tune. Otherwise, our license will be at risk. The other condition is when you don't live to enjoy your retirement, and that is very unfortunate. The third one is when a foreigner is emigrating, when a foreigner is in the country, and he's living for good. Then when you are going on compulsory retirement, in Ghana we have 2 ages to which you can go on compulsory retirement. The 60 years and the 55, which is voluntary. Sorry, we have compulsory, which is 60, and the voluntary, which is 55. Then if you are declared unemployed at 50, there are some people who become redundant, and for that reason, they don't fit into any workspace. So for these people, we ask that they go to the Ministry of Labor and Ministry of Labor to get an unemployed certificate. When you have this certificate, when it comes to us, whatever accruals we have under you, under your name, is paid out to you. Or the final one be an invalid or incapacitated, and we can pay your benefits to you. These are usually our obligations to you when you come on board. We make sure that we keep with you. Our obligations, when we take your money, one might ask, where do we send your monies to? Government requires that 60% of the money that we take from you through your contribution comes to him. By next year, government is going to review his section, government securities. Is going to review it to 70%. Then we have local government bonds, those in the financial sector. If you know of the cocoa bonds, this is where we send such monies. Corporate institutions also at times float what you call corporate bonds. That is where we send some of your money. And the money market, those are the placements we do with the universal banks. Then equities and shares, we go to the stock market to participate in acquisition of some of the shares. We also do closed and open-ended mutual funds. That is one area that we send your fund. And the last one is alternative investment. Alternative investment is government is looking to it that at least if we can do the real estate bond the rate, or look elsewhere outside this country. But we've done the investment appraisal and we've seen that it is not feasible, or not feasible in terms of the returns, because it costs you to go into the international investment market. You have to pay fees in other denominations, very expensive one. And when you retire the money, because they also don't earn much, the returns outside this country don't earn much. So when you do the conversion and bring the funds back to Ghana, it would be better if you were investing the funds here. And this is what we have returned so far. We ourselves have benchmarked ourselves. When government, per the asset allocation that government gave us, we sat down in the market. We are the only institution with this benchmark. So we model the benchmark such that we say that any fund manager who works for us, if you don't meet our minimum requirement of 13.45, we drop you. And so far, our year to date, that's from January to September, we've returned a return of 14.41. And when you project it to the end of the year, which we are even hoping to do better, we are going to do around 19.3, thereabout. And so far, we've done almost 1% beyond the benchmark that we've set for ourselves. And this is the indices that informs the benchmark that we did. So one might ask, what other things do we do? We make sure that when you hook onto us, within 72 hours, when you make a request of payment of your benefit, we are able to honor. When you enroll with us, there are some requirements that we seek you to observe. That is filling of forms. If there should be any request to change any request on the form, maybe when you are filling the form, you weren't married. Now you're going to be married and maybe have kids to which you would like them to inherit you in the event that you live no more. We make such provisions for you. We have other valued services, and that is where our advisory services is. Perhaps on retirement, you are retiring from the math we did with about some 4.8 million, and you find it too heavy a money for you to manage. So, together with our insurance advisors, we get you what we call an annuity pension. An annuity pension is that we put part of your lump sum, which we're going to pay you, into a scheme which returns monthly stipends to you in the form of a salary. So we do that such a way that you do not, in effect, when you go on retirement, your income, you lose about between 40 to 50% of your earning income. So when we do the annuity pension for you, it shows up what you are going to earn. So in fact, it seems to look like you are still at work, where you have not lost anything so much. And we also make sure that when we are with us now, it's become, investing in this country has become so difficult with what had happened in the market. So what we do is that we link you with your investment such that any day, any time, you can monitor. So we have if it is an employer who is contracting us to work on your behalf, we give the employer a plug-in such that anytime he can feed into our system to monitor what is on his account alone. So assuming PESDAC is doing tier 3 for all members, when PESDAC plugs into our system, it will just see what happens on the PESDAC scheme and no other scheme. Aside that, we also have what we call a mobile app. With my mobile app, I think I didn't, with my mobile app, that is it, I am able to log onto my account and see what is happening live in my account. So as of today, I can tell you the balance on my account. Joshua, kindly come and demonstrate that to them. This is the app, PAT app. It's loading. You want it finished. So this is it. Joshua, this one is 10, 11, 65, 777. 10, 11, 65, 777. So with the with that, you are able to enter the system and have a live information of what is happening on the account. So with this and many value-added services, we implore all workers who do not have any form of tier 3 and who wants to retire happily without any heartbeat that they're going to retire and retire as sound as our senior citizens have done, to tinker through their constraint and make sure that they leave a portion for tier 3. And if that decision is taken, you shouldn't hesitate to get to Pensions Alliance Trust. And when you get to Pension Alliance Trust, you can take my number. My number to that effect will be 054 012 5531. 054 012 5531. And if any of you will want to know where our office is at, we are located at Cantonment, just at the adjacent side of the car park of the Soul Clinic Church, the Covenant Family Church. And we are led by Mr. Rasboatin. He was once the Deputy Director General of SNIT, and he led the formation of the National Health Insurance Fund. So we are led by a very competent and well-leading actuary to that effect. So with this, I thank you all for making time to listen to me. And on this note, I want to take questions and contributions from the floor. Most grateful.
Hello. Hi. I think, like Bismarck said from the beginning, sometimes you look at how old you are and you think that retirement is very, very far away. But retirement will come upon you suddenly like a thief in the night. And you'll be wondering what hits you. It is said many civil servants, when they are about to retire, they panic. Because they might have lived in a government bungalow for, say, 30, 40 years. They haven't thought about building their own. Only to come to the realization that, look, in the next 2, 3, 4 years, I'm retiring. They panic. Many suffer strokes and stuff like that because they have not prepared for retirement. Now, the law today It's different from the law in our days. Like you said, in our days, you only had SNIT. Any other thing you did was on your own. You didn't have any tax benefits. Today, the law allows you to put aside more than 1/3 of your income for a rainy day. And I think that if you are a younger person and you are looking to retire, which will come one day, begin to ask yourself, how can I do this in such a way that when I get to retirement, I will not panic? It's not about how much you have or how much you earn today. It's about what your planning is going forward. Now, I think he used about 2,000 cedis as an illustration. 2,000 cedis is what probably the people in the lower tier of employment are getting. But if you are getting a much higher amount, that means that your opportunities are much, much bigger in the next 20, 30, or 40 years. So I would say that take advantage of the situation and ask questions, get answers, and begin today. Because tomorrow, if you procrastinate, tomorrow for you may never come. Thank you.
So, question time.
Yes, sir. My question is, I learned that Tier 1, your benefits are based on your highest earnings for 3 years. So some of us who have retired from very high earning into something else, if we retire on a lower salary, what happens? Niwa, are you looking at me like that?
Okay. Usually, SNIT is supposed to be taking this education. But as a private entity, when we go around and we require of them to also lead the way like we are doing today, they think because part of the contribution has been taken from them, they feel reluctant. But thank God, I am one of the few people who has worked. I've worked in bank, I've worked in investment and asset management, and I'm now in trusteeship. And if you should look at the tripod that governs the whole pension industry, it is made up of a bank, a fund manager, and a trustee. So with this, I am clothed with the with the understanding of the law to give explanation. Let's go to section 77 of the law. Act 766. Could we go online? And usually I want somebody to download the law. He stands with me so that we can all go through. Joshua, could you kindly do that for me? Act 766 is a bit... Okay, the law says that the minimum years you can work to enjoy pension is 15 years. That's 180 months. So if you work for 15 months, you enjoy 50% of your 3 years average income. Assuming you were working and your annual income for the year where the three highest were 100,000, 200,000, and 300,000. When you average it, how much are you going to get? 100, 200, 300, 600,000 divided by 3. You are going to get 200,000. So if you work for 15 years, the law says that you are going to have earn 50% of that 200,000. So it's going to be 100,000. So 100,000 divided by 12. So that's going to be how much you are going to earn from SNIT every other month. It's a 50% of your 3 years average. But the law goes on to say that for every 1 year that you work beyond 15 years, you earn 1.5% pension right. So assuming on retirement you had worked for 30 years, so it means that you are going to earn 1.5 times 30. How much is that going to be? 1.5 times 15, sorry. Because 15 years is going to be for the 50 years. So any additional year that you work, you are going to earn 1.5. So 1.5 times 15. But there is a cap. It says you cannot earn more than 85. So assuming when you do the math, you get more than 85, it means that your cap is going to be 85. So when you get the 85% is going to be applied to the average of your 3 years average. So 85% times 200,000, that should give you about 170,000 divided by 12. So that should be your monthly stipends that Senate is going to be. Have I made myself clear in that respect? So that is for the tier 1. For the tier 2, it's a lump sum. We pay you once and we are done. For the tier 3, we pay you once and you are done. So in order for you to go home retiring more comfortably, tier 1, perhaps you might have an agenda for it. Tier 2 is a lump sum. It's given to you once. Tier 3 is given to you at. So when you have those income, that is why the annuity comes in. To make sure that at least you are able to manage yourself, such that we don't see you doing the unthinkable. Thank you.
Okay, so we have some set of questions. And then the first one goes to our retirees. So the person wants to find out, said, what would you have done differently if you were to start life again in terms of your retirement? What would you have done differently? Is there anything that you would have done differently?
Well, just as I said, when I started, I knew retirement was far away from me. So I didn't plan immediately. I was relying on the Senate, that when I go on retirement, Senate. So even though I said I was going to put up a house, I don't want to go and rent, I didn't start planning for it early enough. If I had the chance, I would start early enough so that it wouldn't be that getting to the time of retirement that you are planning to put up a house where you think you will go and stay.
Thank you, Mami.
I think that, as I said with the savings, for me, I started thinking of building a long time. In fact, when I was about 35 years old, I started to think of buying a plot of land. Unfortunately for me, because I didn't ask for advice, because I thought that buying the plot and then doing it bit by bit would have helped. But Accra is not like Kumasi. So by the time I was really ready to start, I had started a little bit, but when I went, the plot had been given to somebody. In fact, there was a building on it. And I felt that, going to Lands Commission or whatever, for all that wahala, the person can have it. So I let it go. But then I decided that no, I need to really have a lump sum of money so that when I go on the building, then it will be pap, 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 by God's grace, then I finish. And that's what I did. So after some years, then I was able to put up a story building. And again, because the reason why I couldn't do the first one was that at that time, I was paying school fees. And my children were 6. And I had one big Peking Abolo, so there were 7. My husband brought 1. So and he left her to me. So buying school fees, but you know all that, parents, you know all that. You do all that, That's why I lost the first property. But the second one, by then the children had grown and some were gainfully employed. So they were able to help me to do that. So we finished it about 6 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So we do it this way. We have questions online. So one after that, we read the question online. So. Hello, Joshua.
I joined in a little late, but
I realized that in your presentation, I think you were using about 30 years as so that's for the much younger. What about somebody who probably, what advice would you give to somebody who is probably 45, 50, how he can, your institution, for example, can be of benefit to somebody in that bracket?
Thank you. I have about 10 of such people now whom I'm trying to build their pensions for them. When you come to Pensions Alliance Trust, what we do is that for such people who have any such plan with regards to their tier 3, we try to ask them, what is your goal? I have set some 4 or 5 million for myself on retirement, because this should tell you that I started way back. So when I know the goal and I know the average interest that I have been retaining over the period, I plug in the average returns, and that gives me the payout. So with that, I can tell you, pay perhaps 2,000 or 3,000 every month for the next 10 or 15 years, and this is what we are going to go home with. So with that, when you get to us, we could help you in that regard. Thank you.
Okay, so 2 questions over here. Please, I want to know what happens to a Tier 1 contributor who worked and contributed for less than 15 years. Does the contribution go down the drain, or one can claim it? That's the first question. The second question is it possible to move money from one tier scheme to the other, or the worker to withdraw his or her Tier 2 if he loses his job, or decide to move from the formal sector into the informal sector?
Okay. The first question is that if the person does less than 15 years, the law says that the minimum year you can contribute is 15 years. So if you are joining any employment when you are more than 45 years, the law bars you from Tier 1. So all your contributions either comes to Tier 3 or Tier 2. Hello? Because when you go to Senate will tell you are more than 45 years, and the law has stated that if you are more than 45, you cannot. When you contribute even to Senate, and they take it on the blind side, when they are doing the actuarial valuation, at the end of the day, when information has gotten to them that you are 60, they will return all your money, your contributions, month by month, to you at the prevailing TB rate. That is what Senate is going to do. So if you know you are more than 45 and you are now starting with Senate, please, we are returning more than market rate. So you more than what Senate is. So you can just switch on to us or whoever your trustee is to take care of that for you. One is asking whether you can switch in between tiers. No. Tier 1s and Tier 2 are compulsory. Tier 3 is voluntary. So in order to attract people into the Tier 3, government has given a tax incentive for you to take advantage of. The third question is that if you were working and you move to another trustee, what happens to your Tier 2 contribution? It is movable. It is called porting. I work with Pensions Alliance Trust, so my Tier 2 is with Pensions Alliance Trust. The next day, perhaps you find me at Bank of Ghana, and another trustee manages Bank of Ghana. What we do is that we do Inter-Trustee Porting. There is a form that is going to be given to me. I fill the form. It goes to my employer, the trustee of my previous employer. Then all contributions regarding me is moved straight to the new trustee, and the relationships continue from there. So no money is lost in the
Oversight, what happens if I haven't filled it?
If you haven't filled, the money gets to stay with me. So on retirement, still, since I have your biodata within my system, you know, we have modeled our system such that every year we go into the system, we find out how many people are going to retire this year, how much we should provide for them, the provision for them by way of Tier 2, Tier 3 payout. So when you are getting to retirement, we know But if you don't call us, you see, there are some people who get to retirement, but they still want to keep their money just for the annuity sake. So perhaps they are consulting to come and sit with us to do the annuity. So in that regard, we will prompt you that you are on retirement, but get your employers, because before you go on retirement, you have to have proof from SNIT that SNIT is releasing you from the tier 1. Then we can also pay our tier 2 and tier 3 to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Tete.
I just wanted to ask, what about the private people who who work on their own?
Okay.
Do you have a system for them?
I think you are sitting at this side, so you couldn't see my presentation. That is the personal pension. The law provides that if there is no employer-employee relationship, you can start what we call the personal pension. The personal pension, from what I've said with regards to the tier 2, tier 3, there is no tax savings in that regard. So, in order for you to build your fund, we have also given a vesting period of 5 years, so that you build your fund, and after 5 years, whatever you wanted to do, you use the money for. But in the personal pension, every money that is given to us is divided into 2. One goes into what we call your retirement account, and the other bit goes into what we call the investment account. But since we have your bio data, if you are 60, we will know. So if you are coming on that score that you are an informal sector worker and you are 60 years, we pay everything in the investment and in the pension account to you. But if you are not 60 and you still want to tell us that you are going on retirement, perhaps voluntary retirement, we still pay your benefits to you.
Thank you.
Most grateful.
Before that, we have a question.
Okay.
We have a question for Mr. Preje. So the person wants to know that when SNIT gave you the amount that they are supposed to pay you, was there any way you could check to see whether it's correct, or you just had to assume that it's correct, or what happened, like in general?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I personally, I cross-checked to see whether it is correct or not. And incidentally, what they paid me was less than what I was supposed to receive. So I wrote to Senate, and they adjusted my monthly salary, because I even worked out what I was supposed to get. And I gave it to them, that this is how much I'm supposed to get. In the first place, the average 3 years, they have reduced it. They have reduced the average 3 years. So I drew the attention to the fact that my average 3 years is more than what you use in calculating my pension. In fact, it was, as it were, a tug of war between me and SNIT. But eventually, they gave me, in fact, for my monthly allowance that they give to me, they put me on the right listen. But for the calculation of the lump sum, they still made a mistake. I wrote to them again, but I realized that if I begin to drag some of these things, because one, I even spoke to some of my colleagues who had retired. I even wrote their letters to Senate as to what they must get, and they were paid. If I had to prolong it, I realized that it would have been a very serious problem as far as Senate is concerned. Because most people, in fact, once they get their list, they don't know that they have been cheated or they have not been cheated. But I looked at it and I reworked it and then sent it to them. So yes, I was able to detect that I have been cheated. And I wrote to Senate and they paid me.
Okay, so the lesson here is that we should all check whatever we have been paid.
So today I've given you free consultancy on that provision of the law, Section 77 of Act 666. I think Uncle Solo has opened it up and has read that portion vividly. And if you get to me, if anybody is getting on to retirement, I think I've made my numbers available. And please, wherever you work, make sure you take your pay slips. And from time to time, go to SNIT and take your statement. It's very, very, very important. So that as the case of our senior citizen has narrated his story, with the proof of what he has by way of pay slip, and with the proof of the statement that he has from SNIT, there's no way SNIT cannot undo the wrong that they have perpetrated. So where I sit, I make sure, and one thing I'm prepared to do for you is that there is, you see, Ghanaians, presently, I'm in school, and I always take the budget that is read as a second Bible. I make sure I dissect it to see what provisions has been made for me. Last year, I filed for my annual tax returns, though the money I got was not too much. But if I should be setting that money aside annually, it's going to do me a good help. Last year, I got about some 6,000. This year. Next year, I'm going to go in for it. So if anybody wants to join my tier 3 and personal savings, I'm prepared to help you in the preparation of your annual tax returns. Whatever money you get there, you can adjust it and add it to your tier 3, and at the end of the day, it's going to help build your fund for you. So that is a free consultancy I'm prepared to do for the house. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, my question is, can a person or an employee who is in a formal employment, can that person also opt for a personal pension? The second one is, for instance, I work with an institution that now has a provident fund in tier 3. Can I also, as an individual, have a separate tier 3?
Is that all?
That is my question.
Okay, thank you very much. Could you tell me the total, in terms of the percentage, has it reached the cap of 35%? You know, when it comes to where there is an employee-employer relationship, and you've not met your 35% cap, then I come in as an agent of help. If you've not met your 35%, the difference between the 35 and wherever you are, you can choose it as an additional provident fund for yourself. So in that respect, it will be deducted through payroll so that you benefit from the tax. Have you got? So when it is deducted through payroll, it is an advantage to you. But when it is deducted post-tax, then there's no any benefit whatsoever to that. So kindly find out and know whether you have met your 35% ceiling. If you have, then you can jump onto the personal pension, where you could be putting aside your other funds such that when you get on retirement or wherever the need occurs, when you are withdrawing from that, there is no charge, but except the ones which benefit from the tax that the tax withholding tax incidence falls upon. And when we do the withholding tax, we make sure that it is given to you so that you can use it to defray your tax. We give you the certificate for the withholding tax bit that has been done for you.
Yeah, so by way of contribution, SNIT has the option to send you your statement every month. So you can log you can access it, you know your best 3 years, and you can always compute for your averages. That's a key one. And then on the side of the tax provisions, if you are married, if you have a kid, if you have dependents, you have tax holidays. So it's always good that you just file your taxes, your returns, and it may not be much, but 1,000 cedis every year or so could go a long way if you have about 30 years to retire, to add to your retirement package. Thank you.
Okay, so
Are you with Snit?
there's a question here.
That's why I'm saying that I'm going to do it freely. You should do the tier 3 with me. It's a bait, so I'm going to help you with that.
So we have another question online before.
Online, okay.
Yes. So the person is asking, should the worker be deceased before retirement? What happens to his or her tier 2 and tier 3? What is the process the family can use to claim the money? Will it be taxable if he or she was yet to meet the 10-year bracket, as in for the tier 3?
Is that all?
Yes.
Thank you. I believe, I believe the person joined later, but it wasn't seeing what was on the screen. One of the qualified condition for assessment of your tier 3, if you've not done the 10 years, is on the occasion of death. Though unfortunate, but that is one of the qualified conditions. And when you enroll with us, we give you a form to fill. And behind the form, there are lists of beneficiaries that you are supposed to fill. So when you get us to know who your beneficiaries are, in the event that you live no more and we get the information, we have to get a death certificate. And when you pull your enrollment forms, we would have known who the people you have chosen as your beneficiaries to whom your benefits are going to be paid for. To. So you don't have any fears with regards to that.
Okay, I think I saw a hand up at the back.
Yeah. Since you are giving us consultation, I just want you to enlighten us a little bit more about the transition from the former Pensions Act into Act 766. Because yes, there are some lump sum at Bank of Ghana.
Are you part of CLOSAG? Civil and local government staff?
Not at all.
Okay, this is a very, it's still ongoing. You know, when I started, I said pension was all in all SNIT. And in 2010, the law came that SNIT should manage tier 1. And SNIT managed both the payment of stipends. The stipend is what we know as pension. The monthly stipend, that is what we call pension. No, SNIT was paying that, and they were paying lump sum. The law says that SNIT should manage just the stipend, which is the pension. So the lump sum comes to the private sector. At least the private sector always return market rate. SNIT is challenged a little bit because nobody knew how much SNIT was paying on its investment. And secondly, SNIT is guaranteed by government. So whatever money is given to SNIT, if SNIT mismanages and goes down the drain, on the day of people's pension, SNIT cannot say, or government cannot say it will not pay. So the private sector was asked to come in to challenge SNIT. That is why one of the ramifications which is falling out is that now SNIT is asking that when you log on and you fill in your bit, they can update you with your statement. Hitherto, it wasn't like that. You have to be even chasing, and if you chase, it was a matter of choice, whom to serve and whom not to serve. But now we are in the market economy, where service delivery defines the market. So, fast forward, in 2012, all the schemes began. But between 2010 and 2012, the schemes have not been set up. So they founded what we call the Temporary Pension Fund Account, TPFA. The TPFA was an interim scheme which was supposed to be collecting the 5.5% of an employee's contribution till the schemes were set up for them to get into their respective scheme. So during that time, the money built up. And there were two questions that came up. Either to the law was supposed to come into full force in 2015. Because when the law came into being, they said the people who were 55 years were just have 5 years to. But they realized that if you contribute for 5 years under the new scheme, the compounding effect had not gotten to its very best before you were going on retirement. So you were going to be shortchanged. So if that be the case, the window was open to 10 years, which started in 2020. So now they had to do some reversal. I'm saying this because if you were contributing if you are supposed to retire in 2015, at the beginning, you were supposed to be contributing 5.5%. And before the law started, you were contributing 5%. And Senate was supposed to take 13.5% of 17.5. It's going to be left with 4%. So that 4% was a lump sum that we were supposed to be managing by default. But it didn't come our way. So that is standing in the name of Senate, that Senate should pay now. And that is what is being called, or that is what has been codenamed the pass credit. So the pass credit is what those who have contributed under Senate and have paid 17.5% till the coming into being of the new law. What happens to their 4%? Because Senate has adjusted the scale, and then now the scale is taking 13.5%. So it's left with their 4.5% over when they started work till when they are going on retirement. So what happens to that bit? That is what is called the pass credit. Senate, before the kicking in of the 2020, Senate said either they were going to pay it, forward it to us as lump sum to manage for the various contributors till they are on retirement. But you know, Senate and money, they don't want to release money immediately. So they have factored it into their payments to contributors. So that is what they are calling pass credit. But when the actuary calculation was done for the pass credit, a lot of the workers say no, they have been shortchanged. So that is what is bringing the discomfort within the labor front. But I think last year, when the issue got to the president, he says whatever the difference is between what Senate is paying by way of the pass credit and what it's supposed to be, the government was going to take charge of the difference. So that is the transitional provision issues that we are dealing with now. Have I made myself clear?
Yes.
Okay, so we take 2 questions here, and then we take some 2 online, then we can.
Okay. In relation to the
Let me see your voice.
in relation to the 15 years contribution period with regards to the Senate, I'd want to find out if we are talking about contributing actively for 15 years, or we are talking about 15 years from your first contribution.
It's 15 years. So they are now converted into 180 months. If you check the law says 180 months. So they've taken 15 years into bracket 180 months. So when they count the months and it makes up 180 months, you are qualified for. So far as your years, any contribution goes to Senate, they count it as active. So it's not, I can work, if I'm 30 and I work and I'm 45, I can choose to go on retirement. And you leave and you go other, they are going to count the individual months. Now, you see, hitherto it was 20 unblemished years, and it was an issue. Now they've migrated from the 20 unblemished years to 180 months. So now if you pick your Senate, every year they will tell you the number of months contributed. If your new Senate, or if you pick every year, they will tell you the number of months contributed. So now they are going to use the months to count, but not the years.
Okay, I have 1.5 questions. The first one is to the seniors and to yourself.
Wow.
Elder, I think my prayer is that all of us retire with the mentality and physical health that Elder Piaget and Madam have. Because I've seen people come on retirement, and the day they receive the news, the way they change, the least said, the better. But my question to you, Elder, is that as part of your personal social responsibility, have you considered setting up an advisory or consultancy or something that will help those people you used to help when you were active on the job to calculate, to make sure that the calculations that has been done for them was accurate? Even though my brother has given us the formula and he's shown us how to do it, it's not all of us that are that tech savvy or smart. Have you considered something like that? That's one. Number 2, to you and all of you, Many times, most especially Africans, we work hard and we save a lot. So by the time I come on retirement like at PJ, I will definitely have a house. But for the 60 years that I'm on earth before retirement, I'm always renting. And some of these landlords, would you suggest that instead of pushing all my, my enjoyment to the end, I take maybe a mortgage or something that will make my life better? So I borrow from my future today whilst I work. Look, what I mean is I balance my life such that I borrow a little from my future to make my life a little comfortable today. Thank you.
Do I take the lead or? Okay, thank you. You want to add one more? Okay. Is it for me? Okay. You take the question. I'll start this one. This is a very important question, and when you hear the professionals speak, they go to your very core to elicit responses. So, thank you, my big brother.
Okay, so I also want to ask this question. I've been having this argument with my wife.
Oh.
She does a lot of consultancy services. So we've been arguing this out this way, that, okay, so if I should do this kind of service for this person and she gets paid, now, the only deduction she's going to receive on that payment will be the withholding tax. Now, the argument is that, should we go ahead to pay Senate and other stuffs, or should we rather invest on our own?
No, I'm not getting. Is it for the informal sector?
Formal sector as a consultant. Yes.
The withholding tax?
Yes, so assuming that I'm supposed to consult on the service for you, and you pay me, let's say, 1,000 cedis. On that 1,000 cedis, you're going to deduct the withholding tax. So what is left, that is what we consider to pay or not to pay.
Okay, I understand.
I think the question is, should he pay SNIT or pensions?
Should we pay the SNIT or rather invest on our own?
Well, the withholding tax is, at the end of the day, they have to assess your tax and see what has been withheld in your name and see how much you are supposed to pay. And they knock off each other and see whether you have a tax credit or you have some more to pay. So I don't know if at the end of the day you are assessed on tax. And if you are assessed, do you get a tax credit or you get additional more tax to pay? So with the money you have, it is in your hand. Oh, okay. As a private person, well,
Can I help? So, with regards to that, right, the money that you are receiving for your consultancy fee is first of all your revenue. That's not salary. So at the end of the day, when you are supposed to file your tax for the consultancy service that you have done, you cannot put in SNIT. It's not tax deductible because it's not salary.
That's not what he's talking about. He's talking as a revenue to him.
Yes, so
whether
as an individual,
he belong to a SNIT scheme, yet. You see, is there an employer-employee relationship? Is it a registered company? It's not a registered company. So you can choose, it's an option. You can choose to pay SNIT, do tier 2 and tier 3. Or, if you see, at the end of the day, because if you are vying for any job, you need your tax, your SNIT certificate. You need, very soon, tier 2 is going to be part of the SNIT requirement for companies who are to bid for public jobs. Because they realize that a lot of the institutions pay Senate, they don't pay tier 2. So it's going to be part of the requirement. So as from where I sit, I will still encourage you to go Senate and pay the tier 2. But you should belong to a pension scheme of a sort, because you don't know what spans out in the near future or in the future ahead of us. So investment, go ahead and do investment. Then the other question is, the question is that he was asking of mortgage. The law provides for mortgage. If you read section 103, subsection 1, 2, and 3, it says that you cannot hypothecate, you cannot assign, you cannot pledge pensions, pensions meant for money meant for pension, except in the provision of your primary house. Section 103, 123. Section 102, 123, when you read it. But now the general formula of the law has been given. Now let's see whether it applies to me or not. How much is the average home sold for? It's about $80,000. 80, let's use 6. 8 times 6 is what, 24, eh? And 86. 48, sorry. 48,000 cities. The law in Ghana says that
480,000.
480,000. The law in Ghana says that you should not, the debt income ratio should not be more than 40%. The debt to income ratio is the amount of your salary that will be earmarked for settling any liability on your account, be it mortgage or any personal loan you've taken. So now you should be asking yourself, how much do I earn such that 10%? So go to the financial calculator, go to loans. Loan. Have you seen loan? Loan. So input 480,000 as the principal, as the loan amount. So let's use, I'm being told that one of the banks is taking 11%. So let's assume 11%. So 11% over 10 years and see the monthly repayment. $10 years. And 10 years. So go back, please. How much is the monthly repayment? That's the top one.
Hello. Yes, that would be 6,612 Ghana cedis.
So you are supposed to be paying 6,000, almost 6,500.
6,600.
6,600.
Yes.
So you should be earning such that 40% of it is 6,000. And that is because if you buy a mortgage of $80,000 and you are 6 cedis per dollar. Hello. Yeah. And you are taking the mortgage for 10 years, and the mortgagee is charging you 10%. The mortgagee is charging you 10% over 10 years. So you should earn an income such that 40% of it is 6,600. That is when you see. So the law is there. So you ask yourself,
who qualified?
Is the law my law or others' law? So if it is your law for taking, then you embrace it. But if it is not yours for taking, then the first thing is that you struggle to get a piece of plot. Then you go eat by the way the Ghanaian normally do theirs. Bit by bit, you get there. Me, I built 3 houses. 2 were, I went to work. I was at work when I was told 2 has been broken down. I didn't pass by. But finally, I've gotten my land back, and I'm working on that. Fortunately for me, the 3rd one was not broken. So now I'm patching the 3rd one, trying to resurrect the other ones. So it's not easy. If you've not suffered that fate before, if somebody is talking, you think. I was at work when I was called that somebody had brought a bulldozer. And then after doing that, we fled the country. Me, I like big halls. Big halls. When I'm in my hall, I will not go anywhere. You can play football in my hall. So imagine raising 2 of those things. My present hall size is 60 by 30. So imagine raising 2 of those things down. And one thing I've comforted myself with, I came to the world with nothing. So I will not break my head over earthly things. When I get them, fair enough. As our senior citizens say, when I don't get them, I live with what I have.
Thank you. I think I'd appear there was a question to you.
Response.
Yes.
Yes. In fact, when I went on retirement, people even offered me jobs to do, and I declined. I said, I've retired. I want to sit down and not have problems. Some people chasing you, you are a consultant, you are this. In fact, I wanted to have my peace, because the work that I did was such that it put stress on me. So I don't want to, bring another stress on myself. So I decided to relax and then live on whatever I have. I'll manage it. So I decided not to go and do any form of consultancy. Even those people at my workplace, they wanted me to come and teach them how I was able to get additional income from Senate. I told them that I don't have time for that thing. If you see, there is, I don't know whether it is still there. Senate had an how do you call it? Do I call it an app or whatever? That even gives you as to how they calculate the pension. In fact, it was from there, it's from the same Senate app that I used in calculating. So when they brought my, how do you call it, my money, I also recalculated and then sent it back to them. So I told the people that if you want to know how to calculate it, go to this app, calculate it yourself. But for me to come and do consultancy or calculate for you, I won't come.
Okay, so I think the few questions we have left is from those online. So, Mr. Taiman, so somebody wants to find out if you can explain the tax return you mentioned. I think the person did not get that explanation very well. So if you can go back, kindly go back and explain.
I don't know which tax return he's referring to, but what I said early on was that the Act 766 is said that any contribution earmarked for pension is tax exempt. Hello, it's tax exempt. So if it is, the law says that I'm giving a cap of 35%. So if the mandatory is 18.5%, so any money that you earmark for pensions, what goes into tier 1, what goes into tier 2, is not taxed. Even to the extent of 16.5% in tier 3, they are all not taxed. So this is what I spoke with regards to when it comes to tax. And the other bit is, I said, is that there is a provisions always in the budget that people should file their annual things and enjoy some tax reliefs. So that I'm prepared to do for you, freely, if you should join my scheme. But I will find some time. I'm liaising with Joshua. I will break on the 24th. I have 10 days. February, I'm starting my examination, so I have to be preparing. So I can devote some 3 days. I manage GRE's pension, so I can get a lot of the documents into Joshua so that I can guide the group as to how to take some benefit from tax. So that money, they will not give it to you free. It's going to reduce the incidence of tax. You know, government will never give, if you have tax credit, they are not going to give it to you free by way of money. If you are supposed to pay 20% tax, it's going to reduce it by, say, 10% or 5%. So that is how the tax credit comes in. So if by that way I have responded to his question.
Yes, I think the last question would be, says that with the earlier explanation, does it mean there is a way we can avoid paying tax by channeling that amount as a contribution towards our pension?
Hello. Who amongst us is has any background in accounting? I think there is something we call tax avoidance. Tax avoidance. Tax avoidance is not. It's not a crime. If you go to the law says that. I think one of the big earlier judges, he says that for an individual, he will want to make everything possible such that he reduces his tax. So in the same way, as individuals, we have to also make our ways such that the incidence of tax that falls on us will be lessened. When I picked my tax report, I saw that I was paying close to 3,000 a month. So I decided, what could I do to reduce this 3,000? So I went in and filed my annual. So I started this thing about 3 years ago. And around 6,000 is good money. So if every year I'm reducing, because every year my salary goes up, so it also means that the tax credit is going to go a bit higher. So if I'm reducing this and I'm pushing it to pension, I'm not doing badly at all. So that is it.
I think those are all the questions that we have for the day.
So on this note, I wish to thank you all. I have given my numbers out and I've shown you the direction to my office. If you need any advice and any help whatsoever, I'm also a member of the church, but I fellowship with Pastor Coker. I'm at the S.D.A branch of the church. So if you should have any challenge whatsoever, you could get closer to me and I'm prepared to help in that regard. On that note, thank you so much for your time, and for your wonderful questions that has elicited that's so much important responses. And I believe that going forward, this information is going to arm us towards planning towards our retirement. On this note, I say thank you very much, and may God bless you all.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us today. I believe that today's discussion has been very insightful. And then one thing that we should all notice that the future is closer to us than we actually think it is. And then whatever that we can do today, we better start doing it before it's too late. But above all things, we should also take a very good look at our health, what we eat, to avoid situations whereby we would end up using all our pensions money to pay for hospital bills. I think Mami wants to say something, sir.
We want to thank you for being here. I think next time when he is to come, we should invite a lot of people so that they can also come and bring their questions and hear.
Okay, Mr. Noga.
Yeah, I will finish.
You can talk, sir.
I'm done.
Okay, me, what I want to leave with each and every one of us is that everybody is going to give account of his stewardship to God. I'm praying that in planning to invest, to do whatever you want to do, you don't use God's money in doing that. Your tithe should not be used in planning for your future. That is all what I will leave with you.
Shall we sing one hymn? Yawa, please can you help us to sing one hymn before we take our closing prayer? Shall we rise?
We sing hymn 341, To God be the glory. To God be the glory. Go. To God be the glory, great things he has done. So lovely the world that he gave us his son, who yielded his life and atonement for sin, and opened the life gates that all may go in. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord, let the earth hear his voice. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord, let the people rejoice. Oh, come to the Father through Jesus the Son, and give him the glory. Great things he has done. Last stanza. Great things he has taught us, great things he has done, and great our rejoicing through Jesus the Son. But purer and higher and greater will be our wonder, our transport, when Jesus we see. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord, let the earth hear his voice. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord, let the people rejoice. Oh, come to the Father through Jesus the Son, and give him the glory. Great things he hath done.
Shall we pray? Our Father, again in Jesus' name, do we thank you for this privilege to impart knowledge, privilege to learn to make ourselves better on earth, even to prepare ourselves for your kingdom. We thank you. We thank you for this blessed Sabbath. We thank you for the resource persons. We pray that you continue to bless them, flourish their works. Those on retirement, continue to give them good health, great mentality, and well-being, general well-being. We pray that even as we depart from here, your presence will be with us, so that whatever we've learned will be applied positively into our lives, to live lives that will glorify you. Be with us, help us, glorify yourself in us. In Jesus' name, amen.